He was getting drunk, but never touched alcohol. He hadn't touched alcohol in days, not a drop. But something felt wrong. It started subtly, a slight dizziness, like the room had shifted just a little too far to the left. Then his speech slowed. Words didn't come out right. His legs felt heavy, unsteady, like he had just left a bar after drinking too much. But he hadn't. He knew he hadn't. Still, his body said otherwise. People around him noticed. They always do. The looks came first, then the whispers, then the judgment. "You've been drinking." "No, I haven't." But no one believed him. Why would they? He smelled like alcohol. He acted like he was drunk. He even failed a breathalyzer. Again, and again, and again. Doctors thought he was lying. Family started to doubt him. Friends pulled away. Because how do you trust someone who insists they're sober, while clearly intoxicated? But the truth was far worse. His own body was doing something no one around him could understand. Something that made it look like he was drinking, even when he wasn't. At first, he tried to ignore it. Everyone has off days, moments of fatigue, confusion, imbalance. But this was different, because it kept happening. Not occasionally, not randomly, but repeatedly. After meals, after certain foods, sometimes out of nowhere. The symptoms would hit like a wave. His head would spin, his coordination would collapse, his thoughts would slow down, and within minutes, he looked completely intoxicated. To anyone watching, there was no doubt. He was drunk, except he wasn't. And the worst part wasn't the sensation, it was the reaction. People don't question what they can see. They assume, they label, they judge. At work, it became a problem. He showed up once, slightly disoriented. They warned him. The second time, it was worse. Slurred speech, unsteady movement. He tried to explain. No one listened. Because from the outside, there was only one explanation: alcohol. But he knew his own body. He knew what he had and hadn't done. Still, doubt started to creep in. Because when the entire world tells you something long enough, you start questioning yourself. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and the episodes didn't stop. They became more intense, more unpredictable. Sometimes lasting hours, other times longer. He stopped going out, stopped meeting people, because every time it happened in public, it got worse. Strangers staring, someone laughing, someone filming, someone calling him irresponsible. And every time he tried to explain, it sounded like an excuse, even to himself. Eventually, he went to a doctor, then another, and another. Blood tests, neurological exams, basic screenings. Everything came back normal, too normal, which made things worse. Because when tests show nothing, the problem becomes you. Maybe stress, maybe anxiety, maybe hidden drinking. That suggestion came more than once, carefully phrased, but clear. They thought he was lying, and that broke something inside him. Because it's one thing to be misunderstood by strangers, it's another to be doubted by professionals. But then something changed. A pattern. It didn't happen randomly. It happened after eating. Not every meal, but certain ones. Carbohydrates, sugars, bread, pasta. Simple things. The kind of food no one thinks twice about. He started paying attention. Every episode followed the same sequence. Eat. Wait. Then the symptoms begin, like a delayed reaction, as if something inside him was processing food differently. He returned to the doctor, this time with data, details, patterns, timing, and finally, someone listened. Not dismissed, not rushed, listened. And that changed everything. There's a condition, rare, almost unheard of, where the body produces alcohol internally, not metaphorically, literally. Inside the digestive system, microorganisms, normally harmless, start fermenting carbohydrates, turning sugars into ethanol, the same alcohol found in drinks, the same substance that affects the brain, the same substance that shows up on breath tests. Except this time, it wasn't coming from a bottle, it was coming from within. It has a name, but names don't change how it feels, or how people see you. Because even with a diagnosis, explaining it is another challenge. Try telling someone, "I didn't drink, my body made alcohol on its own." It sounds impossible, even absurd, and yet it was happening, inside him, every day. This wasn't just a strange condition, it was a life disruption. Driving became dangerous, working became difficult, social life almost non-existent, because control was gone. At any moment, without warning, his body could shift from normal to intoxicated, without permission, without cause, at least not a visible one. Treatment wasn't immediate or simple. Diet changes, strict control of carbohydrates, medication, monitoring, adjustment, trial and error, because every body reacts differently. And this wasn't something common. There was no simple solution, only management. The physical symptoms were one thing, but the psychological impact, that stayed. Because when you've spent months being doubted, being judged, being misunderstood, that doesn't disappear overnight. Even after diagnosis, even after explanation, the damage is already there. He wasn't drunk, he never was. But everything about him said otherwise, and for a long time, that was enough for the world to decide who he was, without asking, without understanding, without knowing the truth. And maybe that's the most unsettling part of all, because sometimes what you see isn't the whole story, and sometimes the truth is something no one would ever expect. Inside his digestive system, microorganisms were fermenting the food he ate, turning it into alcohol, which meant one thing. He wasn't drinking, his body was.